Hi, my name is Kaylee, and for my unit topic, I chose weather. I decided to assign each of the 4 weeks one of the 4 seasons. So for week 1, we focused on fall, week 2 focused on winter, week 3 focused on spring, week 4 focused on summer. And for each week, we focus on the specific weather conditions during those months. While working through the unit plan, I focused on some of the different theories we learned about, specifically Piaget's stage of development of the pre-operational stage, which is what pre-kindergartner students are in, and specifically the quote, engaging in experimental art activities, scribbling, drawing, playing with clay, listening to music, and learning language. I feel like I incorporated all of those activities into my lesson plans. Another theory that helped me through my unit was Vygotsky's stage of cognitive development. Vygotsky's theory is sociocultural, emphasizing socially constructed knowledge. It is through dialogue with others, both adults and peers, that children learn. In my lessons, we do a lot of discussions throughout our group reading as well as after. I also included a couple of show and tells, and I also did a lot of my assessments through interviewing my students. Lastly is Gardner's multiple intelligences, and I tried to hit on each throughout the entire unit. For my unit topic, I hit on all of the domains of the pre-K standards. For week 1, which was fall, the standards we focused on were PKAL4, exhibits curiosity, interest, and willingness to learn new things and have new experiences. PKAC2 demonstrates they are building background knowledge. PKELA5 participates in discussions about texts. PKARTS13 performs theatrical arts, and PKARTS15 connects to theatrical arts. For week 1, which focused on fall, for this particular lesson, students will interact with a book about the weather during the fall season. We read Hello Fall by Denise Dyson, and students will answer and ask questions about the book. Students will be given an opportunity to describe key elements of the weather during the fall, such as wind and cooler temperatures, and students will discuss activities they enjoy doing during the fall season and the appropriate clothes to wear outside. For the week 1 learning centers, at the blocks we had Build Your Own Wagon, which was where they built a wagon that they saw from the reading, and Dramatic Play, which is kitchen play, they used the classroom kitchen to pretend to cook food like that they saw in the story. For the 3D, we had pumpkin painting, and we just used classroom art supplies. The students will paint the pumpkin, and they can use their fingers or brushes and then add glitter if they wish to do so. For toys and games, we had acorn counting. There's different colored acorns, and they sort them and count how many of each color there were in a pile. For trick or treat, using the classroom dress-up supplies, the students can make costumes and pretend to go trick-or-treating around the classroom. For science and discovery, the leaf scrapbook, we would go outside, collect leaves, and put them between 2 pieces of wax paper and have them color on them. And then feather fun is using various feathers. Students can create their own turkey. And felt board story, students can use people made of felt and dress them appropriately for the weather of the season from the story. For this week's community engagement, we would have an opportunity for family members and guardians to come into the classroom and drink apple cider and eat donuts while looking at the fall artwork the students have created. For week 2, we focused on winter and winter weather conditions. The standards we used were PKELA5 participates in discussion about a text. PKELA ELAL 16 creates a response to a text, author, or personal experience. PK Math 1 counts to 20, only to 10 in this lesson. PK Math 2 represents a number of objects 0 to 5 with a written numeral 0 to 5. PK Math 3 understands the relationship between numbers and quantities to 10. PK Math 11 sorts objects into categories, counts the numbers in each category. PK ARTS 1 creates dance. For this particular lesson, students will interact with a book about the weather during the winter season. We would read Why I Love Winter by Daniel Howarth. Students will answer questions about the text. Students will be given opportunities to describe key elements of the weather during the winter, such as snow, freezing temperatures, and students will discuss activities they enjoy doing during the winter season and the appropriate clothes to wear outside. For the learning centers this week, at the blocks, we would have build your own fireplace, and they would use the classroom bricks to build a fireplace like the one they saw in the story. For dramatic play, they would have animals, and students will have a variety of animals that were introduced in the book, and they can use them to represent the characters to reenact the story. For 3D art, the Snowflake Center, we would use safety scissors, and the students can fold and cut paper to make different snowflakes. For toys and games / math, animal counting, we would use a number card and small plastic animals, and students will use the plastic animals as counters. And for music and creative movements, we have snow angels, and while listening to holiday music, the students will first learn how to do jumping jacks, and after they have that movement, they will lay on the carpet and pretend to make snow angels. For science, they would be making ice, and they would each get a clear cup filled with water, and they could add food coloring and glitter to their water. The cups will be placed in the freezer, and the next day, the children will have their ice blocks, and they're free to feel how cold it is, and then we'll leave them out in the warmer temperature of the classroom and see what happens to the ice. For sensory, we have clay, and the students can use clay or Play-Doh to make a sculpture of a snowman from the story. In classroom library, we have story retell, which uses picture cards, and the students can retell the story to each other in sequence of the events that happened. For the community engagement for week 2, we would have the principal come into the classroom and talk to the children about why he or she loves the winter after reading the story Why I Love Winter. For week 3, we would focus on spring and the weather conditions during that season. And the standards we would use is PK PDH 5 demonstrates hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. PKAC 1 demonstrates motivation to communicate. PK ELAL 12 makes connection between self, text, and the world. PKSCI 4 observes familiar plants and animals, including humans, and describes what they need to survive. And PKSCI 6 develops a model to describe that some young plants and animals are similar to, but not exactly like, their parents. For this particular lesson, students will interact with a book about the weather during the spring season. And the book would be When Spring Comes by Kevin Hanks. Students will answer and ask questions about text. Students will be given opportunities to describe key elements about the weather during the spring, such as rain and warmer temperatures. And students will also discuss activities they enjoy doing during the spring season and the appropriate clothes to wear outside. For week 3 learning centers at the block station, we have free choice, where the students can just have free play with the blocks. Dramatic play, we have fun in a boat, and the students will be provided with a small wooden boat like the one from the book and other props so that they can pretend to go fishing or sailing. For the art station, we have drawing, painting, and coloring, and they can make a picture of what the weather is like outside during the spring, like rain, flowers, trees, mud, animals, sunshine. For flower counting, They can use plastic gardens, and the students will count the number of plastic flowers in each garden and write the number on a dry erase board. For the music and creative movement, we have grow like a tree or flower. And through stretching exercises, students will start as a seed scrunched up into a little ball, and then they will be watered and will grow a little bit. And each time they get watered, they will uncurl from their ball and stretch out more and more until their arms and legs are stretched out wide, which will represent the fully grown flower tree. Then for science, for the plant a seed, each student will be given a small flower pot, and they will have to fill it with potting soil and then plant a seed of a flower of their choice and water the seed and set it in a windowsill to get sun. And each day the students will observe what changes are happening. For the sensory, smell the flowers, the students will be presented with a variety of different flowers and of different flower breeds, and they can smell and touch them and discuss the differences between the different flowers. For library, the students will have an opportunity to look through all of the supporting text that was read throughout the unit. And for the community engagement for week 3, we would have a local florist come into the classroom and show the students flowers that are grown during the springtime. Lastly, week 4 focused on the summer season and the weather conditions during the summer. And the standards were PKAC 3 demonstrates understanding of what is observed. PKELAL 6 retells stories and shares information from a text. PKELAL 24 expresses thoughts, feelings, and ideas. PKSOC 1 develops a basic understanding of self as an individual, self within a context of group, and self within the context of community. And PKARTS 19 connects to visual arts. For this particular lesson, students will interact with a book about the weather during the summer season. Students will answer questions about the text. Students will be given the opportunity to discuss key elements of the weather during the summer, such as sunshine and hotter temperatures. And students will discuss activities they enjoy doing during the summer season and the appropriate clothes to wear outside. For this week's learning centers at the block station, the students can use the blocks to pretend to build a sandcastle. For dramatic play, we have a picnic, and we can put a blanket out on the floor and allow the students to fill a basket with play food from the kitchen and recreate a picnic like from the story. Then for art, we have clay, and they can create a 3D model of different animals that we read from the story. Then we have Sun and Cloud Center, where the students will be given papers with a picture of a sun on the left and a cloud on the right, and they'll glue cutout pictures of suns and clouds to the corresponding side of the paper and then write how many are on each of the sides. Then we have free play in the music, where they can choose an instrument and play with it and make noise. Then for sunshine and shadows for science, we can use a flashlight, and the students will point at different objects from different angles and see the shadows that are created to represent how the sun outside creates shadows. Then for sensory, we have the sand table, where they'll have free play with the sand with a variety of tools like funnels, scoops, and cups, and offer different sizes of shells and like they would be at the beach. And then for the library, we have audio close reading, and students would have a CD player with headphones where they can listen to the books that we've been reading while holding and following along with the book. And for this week's community engagement, we would have the students create a formal invitation to invite parents and guardians to come into the classroom for the culminating celebration. Throughout this entire process, I learned how to make an interdisciplinary unit, a lesson plan while incorporating backwards design and educational theories, how to read, understand standards, and how to incorporate them into lesson plans. And I don't think that there's anything I would change about my unit. If I could add something to make my unit stronger, I would add other weather conditions that happen in other parts of the world, like tornadoes and hurricanes, and not just the weather that happens up here in New York. And questions for my audience would be, where does my unit need improvements, and should anything be added or removed?